Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 23rd Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. If you have cell phones, pagers, and similar devices, if you would silence those now, we would appreciate it. If you are not the applicant and you've come to talk to us about a case today, sign-up sheets like these are on the desk or table outside the chambers, and we'd be happy to hear you when we hear the case. And with that, we'll go to receiving the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll move to receive the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive the minutes. Cast your votes. And that's 4 votes. We don't have to have been here to receive the minutes. Okay, the minutes have been received. Next item is continuances.
We have 6 requests for uncontested continuance. The first item is B20 on your agenda for case PC 10-492 to defer that to April 13th. Item B21 on your agenda for case ABC 881 to defer to April 13th. Item B22 for PC 10-493 defer to May 11th. Item B23 for case C6881 to defer to May 11th. Item B24, ABC 880 to withdraw, and item B25 for ABC 882 to withdraw.
Anyone come here today to address us on items 1 through 7 on our agenda? Well, let's. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped to the consent docket. My apologies. You'll get your turn. Yeah. So, right. Okay. Yes. So, if you'll come to the podium, give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Gary Montgomery. I'm at 12525 Southeast 119th Street. And they're looking to put in an addition in there that we're here to protest against going in. And you've got all the neighbors there adjoining that property and within probably a quarter mile of it. We took the day off work because this was the day they requested to be here. And then they want a continuance. I don't think that's quite fair.
Well, I apologize for the fact that you've had to come down. I'm disappointed that the applicant didn't notify you.
Yeah, nobody notified us. Nobody did anything. I think he's just stalling, hoping we'll quit griping about him wanting to put that addition in.
Well, the applicant's not here to respond, so they're not going to be able to put their case on today, so they're not going to be able to hear it.
So why continue to let them draw us out until we don't show up one day?
Well, as I say, I'm sorry.
I mean, you have the right to refuse the continuance, correct?
We do.
Okay.
But
that's what I'm asking for.
Well,
you can tell me no, but I'm still going to ask for it.
I appreciate your position, but we're not likely to do that. I mean, I'm happy to put it to a vote, but...
And how many times can they ask for a continuance? Is there a limit to that?
Well, we usually don't allow very many, but...
Okay.
I mean, there's not a set rule.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a set rule.
Because for us to voice our opinion on this, he doesn't show up. It didn't cost him nothing to say, I'm not going to be there, but yet we don't know about it. We take a day off work to be here to protest something that's costing us money.
You know, I am very appreciative of the difficulty of that position, and what I would suggest to you is that you send us something in writing, make a note in that writing that your opposition and the reasons for it, but also the fact that you showed up here today,
okay,
that you were not informed that it was going to be continued,
okay,
and that, you know, that's an inconvenience to you. I mean, I understand that. It's not an easy thing to take off time and show up here just to be told at the last minute that, you know, it's going to be continued. So.
Okay, I can do that.
I think additionally, if I could, here, this is the contact details for the applicant's representative, Dwight Butler. And I've circled those for you. Be sure that you give Dwight a call, let him know that you came, that you have a group that's protesting this, and tell him that we've instructed that he get with you or meet with this group, or we'd ask that he meet with this group. We can't make Dwight do anything. But we'd ask that he meet with you along with the application to discuss your concerns, and that way those get brought to him, and perhaps they can work with those concerns within the application if they choose to, but at least they'll open a dialogue between it, and it may be better. You've got the developer's name and address number too, but Dwight, I would certainly be sure to call Dwight. He's typically responsive and pretty good about these things. It's been my experience in working with him.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
I appreciate you coming down, and we're sorry for the,
Yeah,
we're sorry for
we
this
are
delay.
sorry that you're here. The other thing that would happen if this is continued 2 weeks, for example, and he hasn't met with you, we're going to tell him he's got to go meet with you.
Yeah, he's never met with anybody. Well, at least not me, and I'm 4 properties down.
Well,
So,
he may not know there's protest either. I don't know that.
okay.
Commissioner Allen might like to know, too. He's usually pretty proactive in his particular ward, so and I
Jim
think that
Allen.
is a Ward 4 matter, right?
Yep.
Right.
And
So I would
I'm sure that
suggest
the
that.
staff will be glad to get you his contact information.
Okay.
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, how many of you there are here today?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I make 7. That's 4 of the 7 properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, our apologies.
Thank you.
Anyone else on any of the continuances that were listed? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move the continuances as read, and that's April 27th that we're continuing this to, okay?
May 11th?
Excuse me, May 11th. Apologize, May 11th. All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes. They're approved.
We also received 3 requests for continuance, new requests for continuance after that. Item B10 on your agenda for SPUD 937 to defer to April 13th. Item B11 for SPUD 956, defer to April 13th. And item B19 for PUD 1638, also to April 13th.
Anyone come to talk to us about those items today, 10, 11, and 19 on our agenda? Take a motion, Commissioners.
Move for the additional continuances.
We have a motion and a second to approve the additional continuances. Cast your votes. Are there any additional continuance requests from the public today? If not, now we can go to the consent docket that I jumped to earlier.
Okay, there are 7 items on consent. Item 1 is CE 952 to close an easement at 14300 Mezzaluna Avenue. Item 2 is CE 953 to close an easement on South Midwest Boulevard. Item 3 is ABC 878 for an ABC2 overlay at 1609 Penn Park Boulevard. Item 4 is ABC 879 for an ABC2 overlay of PUD 288. Item 5 is C6883, a final plat of Northbrook Addition, Section 3. Item 6 is C8882, the final plat of Northbrook Addition, Section 4. And item 7 is C6884, the final plat of Crown at Lone Oak Apartments.
Now the question, anyone come to talk to us about items 1 through 7 on our agenda today? Commissioners, motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Item 8 under items requiring separate vote is case C6875, the preliminary plat of Lone Oak North. It also does require a variance to the subdivision regulations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Brian Kuhn with Hewitt Zollers representing the applicant. This property is just south of Northwest 164th on the west side of Portland, single-family development. Couple of things, we agree with most of TEs. We want to discuss them a little bit. TE number 3, we're asking for a variance. The road that is at the southwest corner of this development that loops around and then goes back up to the north exceeds that distance, and so we're requesting a variance on that. Just it works out better drainage-wise if we can do this. As you can see, it's not necessarily a straight street by the time you hit the 1500, but anyway, we request a variance on that. TE number 4, we have already submitted that letter, but we will continue to do it as we do final plats if you request. TE number 5, we're asking that be deleted for now. We'll address that at the final plat stages. I think it's a little early to be talking about stormwater and things like that. Plus, that creek area is so big that we don't know that we want to encumber the homeowner association with that maintenance. The subdivision to the south is the same owner, Lone Oak East, and he maintains that creek. The developer still maintains it. So we'd like to just address that at the final plat stage if possible. TE 6, the site distance has been measured, and as the road is now, the site distance meets requirements. But I would like to put into the record that if we have to widen for a decel lane or acceleration lane, I just talked to Stewart and to Public Works. They said that they will not want us to do the acceleration lane, because if we do, then you can't see through the abutment to the bridge. So we're fine now with the way it is, and TE7 I agree with. So be glad to answer any questions you may have.
T number 4, talking about the amenities.
Yes.
Where will those go?
It's interspersed throughout the development. They're really not shown right now, and if you've been to any of their developments, they have lots of park areas inside with the big climbing toys and all that, gazebos and those kind of things. So we don't know where they'll be right now, but they have always been willing to do that. And you'll see at the final plat stage.
Okay.
Because they usually want one in every phase.
Commissioners, discussion,
I
comments?
do have comments on this, one of which is related to Mr. Yokel's question about the amenities. And on the map that I have, Brian, there's one little dinky spot on the northeast side, one little dinky spot on the south side, and one little dinky spot on the southwest side, and in the entire middle, not a common area.
Okay. If you can you scroll up? Does this show anything on that phase that's south of there? Because I'll show you what.
I'm not through.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's my least worrisome comment.
Okay.
And we've had one meeting about traffic calming. And when I looked at the map, you come in that entranceway, and if you've got a superpower Mustang 18-year-old driver or teenager, he's got a racetrack without any place to stop, clear around. It's a huge circle.
Okay. There's lots of stop signs, lots of intersections that break up
Well,
that street.
that's what I don't see that, and I'd like to see what there are. This is the traffic calming issue that we're trying to come up with some speed humps, stop signs, flashing lights, all sorts of stuff. And you want a variance on this big racetrack, I'll call it, and there are 6 people on this commission right now.
Okay. The variance isn't for that long street on the north.
Huh?
The variance is not for the long street on the north. That meets subdivision regulations.
That meets what?
That meets the subdivision regulations. The street that's along the north side, that meets subdivision regulations because we've got streets about every 300 feet where there can be stop signs. But where we don't meet the regulation is down at the southwest corner where you curve and then head
That curve and then you go that way.
go east. That's where we need the variance for.
Well,
I can break that up if you want me to. if the
here's what
variance
I'd
doesn't
like
pass.
to do, is that I'm not in favor of this
Okay.
without knowing what elements there are to slow down the traffic. Stop
Okay.
signs,
Okay.
signage, speed humps, whatever you can throw into this.
Okay.
And I'd like to have you come back in 2 weeks,
Can
because
we-
I won't vote for
I understand.
variance.
And I'm okay with that, not doing the variance, and we'll solve it before we come back to the final plat. We'll make sure we don't need the variance.
And I'll tag a comment onto that, my concern about traffic signs,
Okay.
stop signs in particular, because I happen to live in a neighborhood that has stop signs at every intersection. They're either 3- or 4-way stop signs, and you have roads that are clearly primary for people moving through the neighborhood and streets that kind of go off on the sides. And in my neighborhood, nobody stops. I mean, they float the stop signs. They're not effective. They may slow down, but they won't stop.
Speed up after they get to the stop sign.
Pardon me?
They speed up after they get to the stop sign.
Yeah, so in between.
And then float through, they do that, yeah. I've got,
I hear your concerns. My concern is, though, is that this is what the fire department's going to want, so they can get emergency vehicles to a fire without having to go a quarter mile to the south and then go back up to the north. So what I would ask, you don't have to do the variance today. I'm okay with that. And we will address that in the final plat stage, and we'll come up with some solutions at the final plat. Like I said, I don't have to have the variance today and won't need it in the future if you don't want us to do that, because we can connect some of those streets and not have so many cul-de-sacs. So.
I mean, even if there's a way, as we see in some areas, something to go around at an intersection rather than actually...
We'll work on that. We can work on that.
And
We'll come back on the final plat stage and show you what we've come up with. You know, they don't allow speed bumps. There's certain things Oklahoma City won't allow. So and we'll show in each phase the parks. Yes, absolutely. And what I was asking earlier, if you can pan to the south, you may not be able to, but the piece to the south, similar to this, we've got about an 8-acre park that's over by the creek that all the neighbors can get to. So when we get to the final plat, decide the phases, then we'll come up with the parks. Absolutely.
another question.
go ahead.
If we approve this preliminary plat, does that give precedent to what I'm seeing at this map right now? And if they follow the same map, but just have you say, additional information on traffic signs, other traffic calming things?
The answer is probably no, because to have this remain as it looks right now, he'll need a variance.
What?
Just to be
He'll
clear.
need a variance in order to maintain
At the
this.
final plat stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I just have, just so I understand what we're actually varying here, I'm not, I mean, but what this particular variance goes to is only that segment of the east road from the corner down here to the first break. That's it,
That's it.
right? Is that right, JJ?
The other one to the east, now that I'm looking at that one that's kind of a
I just want to make sure I
hockey stick
understand.
looking.
I think we were considering the street all the way along the north
Okay.
as needing the variance because there are T intersections, there's no cross intersection.
Okay.
We'll look at that and get with you.
Yeah.
Between now and the final.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I just want to make sure, because it's difficult, if it was just that little section down there on the southeast corner, it's hard for me to get too concerned about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's more than that, though, that obviously should be a concern.
But that, I know you're concerned about it, but that doesn't trigger a variance. I know that's, and I understand your concerns. We'll deal with it. I don't think, we'll talk. We'll figure that. And no, I won't come back and say, sorry, you approved this. That would probably be my last time I'd be here if I did that.
Well, and also, will there be common areas shown in that vast middle?
We'll have some common areas in every phase.
When
yeah.
you come in with the final plat?
Yes. Yeah. And if you've been through any of their neighborhoods, you will notice there are parks interspersed throughout their neighborhoods.
Okay.
And these are all family-friendly neighborhoods. They don't want anything unsafe either.
Brian, I
Yes.
just wanted to be sure I understood where my access points are. The one to the north is pretty obvious. The one, there actually are two sort of to the south.
There's one
that
at-
goes to the
one at the
west,
south.
one that goes to the east.
And then one to the north. Yeah, and that road will eventually go east, or it
Okay.
can go back into the Lone Oak East, which is the subdivision that's being built now. But
Okay.
into this subdivision, there's only two. You're right.
So that little dot, 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 dot thing there that separates it from the common area,
Stick out
is
part.
that, does the street come on around and
Yes.
hook on to the, okay. Okay.
So there is an access to the southeast, right down here in the corner that meets that,
Yes.
that little
Yes.
cutout triangle.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that one, all right. Thanks, Brian.
you bet.
so looking at the TEs, you want to delete TE5 at this point, dealing with maintaining
Yes,
the creek?
yes, yes.
6 is taken care of because the site distance has been checked. 7 has to stay in place, of course.
Yes.
So we'll take a motion including TEs 1, 2, 3.
We're going to, I thought we were going to eliminate
Oh.
TE3. Yes?
Right, we're not doing the
You don't-
variance.
Okay.
you don't
Well,
agree?
you can deny the variance or you just delete it. Well, no, you can't delete it because I've got to have a variance. You're going to need to deny the
Yeah.
variance. So it can't,
Just delete the TE and it'll come back again at the final plat.
that's,
Yeah, okay, so deleting TE3 and TE5 then.
Okay?
Got it.
So that would be the motion.
So moved.
Nope, okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 8 as conditioned. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you, Brian.
Item 9 is SPUD 958 to rezone 10201 South Anderson Road from AA to SPUD 958.
Yes, I'm trying to 5 acre, split it in 2.5 acres.
Tell us your name and address, please.
My name is Mosen. I'm with New Home Construction.
Okay,
I'm a home builder,
all right.
and I live catty corner from this property.
Commissioner, no one has signed up. Comments, motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 9. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thanks.
Items 10 and 11 were continued to April 13th. Item 12 is SPUD 959 to rezone 300 Southeast 59th Street from R1 to SPUD 959.
Sir, if you give us your name and address, please.
Kenneth Thompson, 1200 Southwest 59th Street.
Okay. And you're adding parking to an existing business, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes.
I don't understand this case. I don't understand why it's being brought to us as an SPUD. I don't understand what it is we're trading for allowing the current sign to stay, the current parking to be approved no matter what use it becomes. We're not getting sidewalks. We're allowing him to keep his fence. I don't understand this case at all. I'm sorry that Jim is not here because I'm
I
guessing he
think we
can
are doing
explain it to me.
sidewalks. It says we're going to do sidewalks as part of the condition. Provide sidewalks along 59th and Style. So that was, you understand that's a condition to do sidewalks along
Yes.
59th as well as Stiles Avenue, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I did have a question. So you're parking, if I could, Jess, you're parking on the 59th Street exit, so those folks will just have to come in and back out. Is
Yes,
there room
yes, sir.
for
Yes,
people
sir.
to back out and get out
Yes, sir. Yes,
and there, and the same on the other side, right?
yes, sir. Yes. There's no parking on the north side of it, though.
No parking on the north side of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
So the, what is it, 6 spaces on the west side of the building
And
will be the sum total of the parking for the site, even if it becomes a convenience store or a fast food restaurant or a general retail sales and services. I'm having a hard time getting there on this. I totally understand that you're trying to bring the zoning into compliance for the existing use, and if you wanted to limit it to your existing use so that in the event it ever becomes anything else, we'll have an opportunity to adjust the signage and the fencing and the parking, then that would be okay with me. But I have a hard time approving, a fairly significant number of uses for this property just as is.
Yes,
What are you doing on the, what's it used for now?
it's just, it's going to do repairs on cell phones, just repairs. I don't have that strong of traffic coming in there.
How many spaces does he need, JJ, for the uses that he's set out?
One
If it were a
space,
convenience store, for instance, how many,
need the same for any commercial use, it'd be one space for every 200 square feet of the building.
1 to
It's a
200?
very, very small, non-conforming bar that's been there forever. It's lost its non-conforming status, and he's trying to make some commercial use of the property.
So it doesn't have the overlay anymore? That was a question that I had, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not been used.
Right, that's gone away.
It's lost its continuous use, and he has enough parking for the uses that he's requested.
Parking he has is what he has, and we prefer that the parking on the north go away. It's just way too close to the corner, and people backing out into 59th Street.
But we're keeping it?
We're asking that it go away.
Is that all right with you? See this drawing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you understand that the parking, the 3 spaces on the north would no longer be there if we approved, or 2, however, is that 2?
Yes, sir, that's 2.
Okay, so those 2 would no longer be there,
So no parking in the front,
No parking. That's right.
in the back?
just in the back.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
So you'd only have access into Stiles, is that right, JJ?
Perfect. That'll be perfect. That'll be perfect.
All right.
No one signed up?
I think that's, because I was concerned about the north parking not being enough room, so if that's agreeable, just so you understand what you're getting, I want to make sure that you fully comprehend what we're proposing to do with the application, okay?
It's the parking in the back, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what you call the back, but
Yeah.
I would call it on the south of where it says existing building.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Then where will you place your dumpsters?
In the back part. It's like, I don't know my widths and stuff, but like where the parking is gonna be, it's like a gate right there, where I can put the trash can right there.
Anything else, Commissioners?
Nothing for me. I'll move approval subject to the TEs. And we're getting rid of the parking, understanding that we're getting sidewalks. The parking on the north will not be allowed. And you understand your dumpster has to have some sort of screening around it so that,
Yes, yes.
all right.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes. And it's approved. You're approved, thank you.
Item 13 is SPUD 961 to rezone 4610 South May Avenue from C3 to SPUD 961.
Is the applicant here? If you have to come up to the microphone, sir. Give us your name and address. Pull the microphone down a little bit if you would. Thank you.
My name is Henry Nguyen. My address is 4610 South May, Oklahoma City.
Okay. And you have an existing pool hall, is that correct?
Oh, not me. Yeah, that's correct.
And you want to just add beer sales to that facility?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners?
So I have a question, this one also, of staff, I guess. Why are we doing this as an SPUD?
Because this is a pool hall and really does no food service
Oh.
to speak of, it's an ABC3.
Okay.
He doesn't meet the requirements of separation from residential for an ABC3, so we have to put it into a SPUD.
But it is limited to sale
is.
of beer.
Limited to beer.
I have a question. Would this come under the new thing we're dealing with, could you explain that, Audrey, about what?
The
Because
proposed change.
this seems to be silly for us to even deal with.
Right. And Sarah might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it would fall under that category that would have to receive a special permit. So it still would require consideration, a vote, and a public hearing because of the level of alcohol sales and the use, because it's not a restaurant that serves food. So basically,
Okay.
what we're proposing is the ABC3 overlay uses would end up becoming a special permit use.
Well,
And that is not
I think my
yet moved forward.
confusion is that this is an ABC1.
And I think the difference is ABC1 attaches to a restaurant that serves food.
Oh, I see.
Is that
No,
correct?
okay.
And ABC3
Gotcha.
is just
Yeah, okay.
alcohol.
Any other discussion?
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 13. Cast your votes. And it is approved. Thank you. Janice, you didn't vote? Thank you.
Item 14 is PUD 1628 to rezone 1520 South Mustang Road from AA to PUD 1628.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, who is Dr. Sam Corey. Before I go through the details of the PUD, I do want to have Dr. Corey introduce himself, as well as some special guests that he's brought with him here today.
Thank you all for being here today. I know how you give of your time, and I know that the income tax is real happy with your return every year with your remuneration. But
Tell us your name and address, please.
But I would like to thank you all for serving. I know some of you have been on here as long as 12 years, and that's a long time to put up with a bunch of irate citizens, and I want to thank you. My name is Sam Corey. I live at 4021 Northwest 192nd. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. But anyway, I get into my dissertation, and I apologize. We have a very aggressive program here, and we think it's good for the western half of Oklahoma City. I wanted to mention a couple of things. Number one, I'm 80 years old. A couple of the members asked me if I was still going to be around to see this project completed. So I thought I'd better bring my backup team in here. I'd like to introduce my daughter, Carol Hefner, John Corey, Jimmy, my other boy, is not here. My other daughter, who runs my operation, is not here. So this is the team. Oh, there's Julie. I'm sorry, I didn't see her sitting back there. Julie Solheim. This is my grandson, Sam Corey. So we do have continuity. We also have another 400-acre development at Edmond Road and Portland all the way to Danforth. So we're pretty involved in Oklahoma City real estate. I built the Corey Center in 1976, which is a 6-story building on Northwest Highway. And I have tried to be a good citizen. I have tried to produce things that are actually beneficial to our city. So I wanted to mention that, and I want to thank you all again. And now David can take over and tell you all what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it'd be helpful to explain where we started. This was filed months and months ago, and if you look at the development as it stands now, what you see is this big void, a big white area. What that represents is the future turnpike. When we first filed this, our development actually showed development over where the turnpike wants to be and called out where the turnpike is now. The Turnpike Authority sent a letter in protest. I can debate the legal merits of whether or not they have the right to do that, but my client, being overly reasonable, decided to go ahead and call out for what the turnpike desires now. Thank you, Tom. To call out what he wants now. And so what we've done is we've gone ahead and marked out the spot that the OTA needs and desires. We've worked with the OTA. My understanding, they have now withdrawn any protest. So if you look at what we have, it's a 6-tract PUD. We spent a lot of time working with various commissioners, and one of the concerns that was raised is a lot of the uses that we had across the entire board. I think Mr. Hensley indicated what we had really wasn't a PUD. So after those series of meetings, we went back to the drawing board and we started ripping out uses. We started adding some restrictions. We started adding language about signs, about what we have to come back with at a special permit stage, or excuse me, specific plan stage. And what we have now and what I've disseminated to staff and various planning commission members is a PUD. It's what this commission expects. What we now have is Tract 1. Tract 1 has some identity. Mr. Bright mentioned, we talked about a potential hospital use, but when you read the PUD before, it didn't really read like that. It really read like it could be anything. I think if you look what we've asked for now in Tract 1, it reads like the hospital tract. What you see is the hospital use and then uses you would expect to see in and around a hospital or medical complex. So with that, we think we've kind of met the charge we had from the commission. And so what I'd like to do is briefly go through some of the tracts. After we disseminated that PUD, Mr. Bright had asked for some further revisions, all of which we do agree to, so I'll just go through those briefly. But if you look at Tract 1 now, it's kind of indicative of what we've done throughout this whole PUD. That is, rip out uses. I mean, it is now very thin compared to what we had previously. So Tract 2, one of the concerns that was raised, because we are adjacent to a school, is that we need to take out the alcoholic beverage retail sales. We agree to do that. We take that out. It was asked that we take out gasoline sales large. We agree to do that. We've taken that out. Moving to track 3, it's a little sliver, again, right next to the school. Again, take out the alcoholic beverage retail sales. We agree to do that. We've taken out the gasoline sales. So when you look at track 3 now, there's not many uses left. I mean, it's what you would expect to see along a major, what could be a retail corridor. Yes, Mr. Hensley.
You're deleting alcohol beverage retail sales, right?
Deleting that and deleting gasoline sales large.
Thanks, because that's not, I want to make sure I'm keeping up.
That's correct. And what your staff report reflects is probably what was initially filed.
Right.
And, I mean, if you just look at track 2, just eyeball it, I mean, it's pretty small. 5 of those uses are restaurant uses.
And so no other deletions from 2 other than what was in the published staff report. Is that right?
From the published staff report?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I've got my program correct.
Yeah, let me turn to it real quick.
Can I just say, not to interrupt the flow here, I find all this very, very confusing. I have, one exhibit that has no track 6 on it. I have another exhibit that has track 6 over here, and then a third exhibit that has track 6 over there. And although I appreciate very much your willingness to stand there and go through and tell us exactly what's been eliminated, that's not what my staff report reflects. And so as I was processing this and reviewing it and going through and making my notes, I don't have that information. And I just don't feel like, I'm ready to sit here today and make this decision on the fly. This is a very complex, it's a large piece of property. It's definitely going to have, frontage along the highway, and so that it's got all of those, appearance corridor questions and issues. We're leaving a lot of things till later for review at specific plan stage, and while I appreciate that helps with finality on things that you're not quite ready to be final about yet in terms of users and placement and so on, I'm not quite quick enough to sit here as we speak and process whether that ability to decide this later is answering enough of my questions to be prepared to vote today. So I would really like to see this item continued at least 2 weeks. I don't think, if you have made these changes and the feedback you've gotten is fairly positive, I don't know that it would take a lot more back and forth, but it's going to take me a little bit of time just to digest it and sort through it.
And that's fair enough.
Make an intelligent decision about it. And I don't want to not make an intelligent decision about it. It's too important a piece of property for that.
We spent a lot of time and effort meeting with everybody and trying to get out as much information as we could. Your staff report always shows, for whatever reason, the track map that was with it when we filed it. That's undergone changes. But even in 2 weeks, it's going to reference what we originally filed. But why you have an Exhibit C is this, and it's the most current one. And this is a project that we've been working on for months and months and months, and a lot of time and effort has gone into it, even up until late yesterday and up until this morning, getting ready for this hearing. So I understand, it's a little, I think, frustrating for my client that if there are these questions that we didn't find out about them until 1 o'clock the day of the hearing, with the amount of money that he spent getting ready for these hearings. But if you look at it, where the tracks are, you do have. It's in your staff report. Now, perhaps it's confusing because the staff report has multiple tracks, but what we're requesting today is in there. And in fact, what I'm sitting here doing today, right now, is taking more uses out, all of which were uses requested by a commissioner that went through it, in my opinion, with a fairly fine-tooth comb, and we agree to do that. So we would like a vote. I mean, like I said, we've put a lot of time, effort, and money into this, to show up at 1 o'clock the day of the hearing and hear that there's confusion. But I'd be happy to continue to go through the PUD if any other commissioners want to hear it. But there are only 6. I may not be real good at math because I went to law school, but I can count to 5. So we'd like to be able to move forward. I think what we've got is certainly reasonable, certainly appropriate, it's consistent with your comp plan, it's exactly what this planning commission desires on large-scale developments like this. We have to come back for specific plan stage. So I'd like to hear some other feedback, but we think we've got a document that is ready.
Well, David, I'm coming at this late, as you know, because I've been out of town and did not have a chance to meet with you. And we spoke on the phone somewhat briefly. Where, for instance, would you put gasoline sales large, just out of curiosity? You've said you're not going to put it in 1, 2, or 3.
We've limited it to Tract 6 as an independent use and accessory use within Tract 4. So if Tract 4 you had a big box, you could have a gas...
So if you had a Walmart or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And those are the only two places. Tract 6 as an independent user and Tract 4 if it's accessory. We've taken out all the alcoholic beverage retail sales over here because it surrounds the school.
Sure. Okay.
There are 3 tracts that allow it, but it's further limited to no more than 2 in the entirety of the PUD.
Other commissioners?
Add something to what you're doing and what Janice is saying as well. I did go through this application and made a number of suggestions. One of the first comments that I had, I said, you know, what I'm reading here, there are 3 maps. There's the Turnpike Authority map, there's the first map, and then there's the real map. David made it clear that it's the real map, the one he just showed. That was it. And then suggestions that I made in an email to David. Those apparently are being made, but those are one person's comments, one person's analysis that I had time to do and time to meet with David and his client. And admittedly, that's one of 9 people. You know, so if, Janice, you get this application and it's different than what it is that he's presenting, I can see the confusion. You know, like, because here's mine. This is what I did, the notes all over it. And that's the kind of thing that I think that we would like to see, what it is that's really kind of final.
Well, and
You know,
I did take the time to sit down and meet with the applicant. That was before I even had a staff report.
right, yeah.
So, you know, I did express some of my concerns to them then. I did go through the staff report when I got it, made my notes, made my questions and so forth. But there still are questions, still different information than that.
No, that's my point, yeah.
And, you know, I just think it's going to take a little more time than, you know, the next 5-10 minutes to go through it and figure it out.
David, question for you. The design statement that you sent me yesterday...
Yes, sir.
...via email, which is what I've got in my hand.
Yes,
do
sir.
the other commissioners have this?
I know several do, and we did send it to staff, and that's our understanding.
I don't have it.
I don't know if staff sends it out.
I don't have it.
I got my copy from you. I never got anything
Okay.
from staff, so I don't know what they might have done with it. Okay, well, that's...
I think what we did was we sent it to the people who expressed concerns. I know Mr. Bride got it. You got it because you
I
didn't
got
have the
it, but
opportunity to
we-
meet.
yeah.
And we did send it to Mr. Hensley.
What's the pleasure of the commission at this point? Oh, yeah, we do have people who signed up as well.
How many people have signed up?
2.
2. Have you met with anybody that signed up?
No, I wasn't aware
Have
of
you
it.
heard of any
No,
protests or concerns? I'm not saying they're protesting at all.
I don't think there's any letters. But
All I'm aware of the 2 people who signed up. Maybe we should hear from them.
yeah, sure.
Lynn and...
Well, hold it, just, I mean, if we're moving toward a continuance, perhaps it might be, or suggesting it, let me just say that, perhaps it might be better if the applicant get an opportunity to talk to those that signed up, and then, if we're not, obviously we want to hear from the people, but I think that
Sorry, can't hear you. If you'll give us your name and address, please.
Aaron Burns, 716 Garrison Lane. I actually called the attorney's office and requested that the HOA board would like to meet with the development company, and they never got back with me. And that was after the first meeting I attended that was continued. So it's been about 4 or 5 weeks, because there's been at least 2 continuances since then.
Okay,
And I addressed that we opposed a few things.
okay, thank you. And then Lynn and Ken Jones. If you'll
I'm Lynn Jones.
pull it down and it'll be easier for you.
I'm Lynn Jones, 11152 Southwest State Street. And I haven't talked to the developers, but I've been given a copy of all the plans and everything. And my biggest problem, of course, I would like to protest it, but I realize that's not going to happen. So my question is mainly was if they are allowed to do this. This is a single-family neighborhood. There's only one neighborhood in that area that has single-family dwellings. How close are they allowed to come, and will there be barriers or anything like that? Because, you know, otherwise they're running right across your back fence.
Well,
Mine backs right up to that.
There would probably be a required setback and probably a site barrier as well, which is called for by ordinance. So there would be something.
They would have to put up something.
Tell me again what your address is.
11152 Southwest 8th Street.
Okay,
I'm right on the north
okay.
of Track 3, I think.
Well, and thank you for coming. In terms of expressing, you know, an opinion, I would like to see this continued for 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks, if that's enough for you to get with the homeowners association.
We can meet tomorrow. I think 2 weeks is probably more than enough. Whenever your schedule allows, we'll meet you wherever you'd like. So you name the time, place, and we'll be there.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not in control of the homeowners association.
And we'll
but-
meet with them separately and make the same. I'm going to give them my business cards right now.
Okay.
Pat, microphone.
The giving of your card to the homeowners association indicate that you're going to go along with our 2 weeks deferral?
Well, we take 5 green lights, but I don't know that they're out there right now, so.
Yes, and I'm going to move to continue this item for 2 weeks.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this item for 2 weeks, and hope that there is some communication between the homeowners association, planning commissioners, and the applicant. Cast your votes. And it's continued for 2 weeks.
Item 15 is PUD 1636 to rezone 601 North Check Hall Road from PUD 1086 to PUD 1636.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. What you have before you today is a PUD that is just an extension of PUD 1145 to the north. This is at Check Hall and I-40, where the new academy and many big boxes are just north of that. And I met with, looking at the TEs, I met yesterday with staff on TE number 2. We asked that that be stricken. We don't have, we don't currently have access to the north. We will shoot to gain that access, but can't guarantee that access, so I can't give up the access to Check Hall Road. And just a modification to TE3, that the specific plan not be required for the R3 uses. Be happy to answer any questions.
Who are we? Ward 3, huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to refresh myself what ward we're in here. It's Ward 3. And Buck is not here.
That's all the academy, baristas, there's lots of new businesses going in just to the north. It's all big box, so it's just a continuation of that.
So I'm not quite sure I understand. You're gonna plat it instead of doing a specific plan?
For the R3 use,
Yes?
for an R3 use, we would plat it, but, I mean, typically you don't come through with a specific plan for a residential use. We would come in for a specific plan for a commercial use.
So we won't have another look at how it's laid out on the site?
For the R3 use, it would be platted.
I'm sorry, you will be platted, okay.
I didn't see a steeple.
I'm sorry?
I didn't see a steeple or a church building here, Mark. I'm just wondering if you had one. Just kidding.
I have a
Trying
one
to-
potential additional TE, and that's relating to your signage regulations, 9.6.4. And you have a sign that's going to be 12 foot tall, but you have no indication in there, or at least have no, you already have no pole sign, so this is going to be a monument sign 12 foot tall. Yes, sir.
So we'd have a TE5 that you'll plat for the residential? Or do we need to say that at all? Probably not, okay. So a specific plan will be required for this PUD for commercial. So I'll add for commercial uses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that then is,
So we don't need one for, we'll get a plat for the
we'll
residential?
get a plat for residential
We will
anyway?
get a plat automatically, or do we need to request one? I think that was your question.
You don't require plating for the residential if it's not already in there.
I'm fine with that.
Fine with that.
And so we'll get a specific plan for the commercial and a plat for
The residential.
the residential uses. So that's TE3 is amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Mark, I may be confusing this with another application. This isn't the one that says, on the one hand, no pole signs, but then says someplace else that the existing sign can be retained. Is there an existing sign on
No,
it?
there's no existing sign there.
That was the earlier site on South 59th Street.
Oh, no, there's that one, yes. Okay. As long as it's not you, it's okay.
Anybody signed up, John?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item 15, amending TE3 to require a specific plan for commercial and a plat for the residential uses.
And striking number 2.
And striking 2, yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 15 as conditioned. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16 is C 6885, the final plat of Whistle Creek Phase 1. This does require a variance to the subregs.
I'm going to save you all about 2 hours, since Ms. Powers just had to step out of the room. I only have 5 people up there, and I have to have a variance. So I'm going to ask for a continuance for 2 weeks.
Motion
I've
continued.
talked to the protesters, too.
Okay.
You've talked to Kelly?
Yeah.
Because there's also a lawsuit filed in this case, so
Yeah.
municipal counsel's office says it's up to us as to whether we approve this at some time in the future, continue it, or how it's handled. So
Okay.
we're not bound by the fact that a lawsuit has been filed, nor are we compelled to do something because it's there.
Thank you for that clarification. I'll move to continue it 2 weeks.
I need a second.
Or first meeting in April.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item 16. Cast your votes. And it's continued. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. All right, so it's 5 votes, not 6, for the record.
Okay. And item 17 is a comp plan amendment. It's number 2017-1. This is changing land use typology area in 2 areas located north of Northwest 23rd between Frisco and Richland Road, and an area north of that. And here to do a presentation on it is Ken Bryan from the Planning Department.
Hi, thank you. Ken Bryan, Oklahoma City Planning Department. This is our first comp plan amendment for the year, so welcome. I'm going to highlight some of the
It's not the first one that's happened to us, but it's the first one you presented, yeah.
I'm going to highlight some of the key components of the staff report. As the title indicates, the request is to remove the urban reserve layer and leaving the urban low-intensity layer in place in one portion of the subject area, and to designate area that is newly annexed territory into Oklahoma City as urban low-intensity as well. The associated application is there, PUD 1637, and I believe that's the next item on the agenda, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that particular proposal, other than just to mention that it's a regional entertainment and commercial district. So here we are. Here's our land use topology map. You can see the red star straight out to the west there. That's the kind of the general location of the subject area. Zooming in here to the southwest portion of the city, and gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about land supply. We use that analysis to see if there's enough developable land in a particular designation for a particular type of or general category of uses or intensities. So the subject area there in the top left of this slide has the urban reserve overlay applied to it, and it would sort of be a new regional district if the vision is fully fulfilled and developed out here. So the land supply analysis, why it shows that there's plenty of land in the UL topology in this area, it doesn't really take into account the opportunity to capitalize on a new regional commercial node, and that's sort of what this is about. And of course, since it's in the UR, those are areas that are appropriate for future urbanization. Here's a look at the existing conditions as far as the land use topologies go. You can see Area 1 there south of I-40. That'd be the area where the urban reserve would be removed, leaving the ULI in place. And then Area 2 you can see there in gray just north of I-40. That was recently annexed into the city, so it, of course, doesn't have a land use designation, and unless you'll recall, when we de-annexed that a couple years ago, it was urban reserve. Total size of those two areas is about 210 acres. And of course, I mentioned the requested changes to put UL, urban low intensity, in both of these areas. So just a quick reminder, the purpose of the UL overlay is to make sure that we have enough large parcels that are appropriate for future urbanization. And what we mean by that is that they will receive at some point in the future a full complement of urban services: water, wastewater, public safety, et cetera. Consideration for applying urban reserve to the city, different areas in the city, includes existing zoning and our various major service providers' ability to provide those services. In other words, how efficient is it for water or wastewater to provide service to a new area that's currently not served. So they're proposing to apply to this area urban low intensity. Of course, those are the least intensely developed areas of the city, but still fully urbanized, receive a full complement of urban services. They look to have a high integration of uses, whether they're connected horizontally or vertically, and a design that would imagine future opportunities for connecting to existing multimodal infrastructure such as trails, transit, et cetera. So when we look at the consideration for applying that designation to an area, we look at how easy is it to provide water and wastewater. In this example, and hopefully they'll talk about that in the PUD, but we're proposing to temporarily receive service from the city of Yukon for water and wastewater. There's a little bit of precedent for that, so a relatively new approach for Oklahoma City, but we're starting to use that a little bit and cooperate with our neighboring jurisdictions. The location, of course, with having the urban reserve overlay indicates that Oklahoma City could provide services at some point in the future, and certainly we would intend to do that. As far as fire response goes, this area is actually outside the preferred kind of, the predicted, I guess. There's not a lot of responses in this area right now, but outside the preferred response time. However, we do have an opportunity to enhance our cooperation with the City of Yukon as far as fire service is concerned, and so we're pursuing those conversations right now. We've also, part of the reason that we talk about fire efficiency and response time is so that we just make the developer or the landowner aware that they can maybe expect slower response times. And so, of course, we've made them aware of that several times for this project. So here's a quick, not only a quick look at the aerial photography so you can see how it kind of looks out there right now, as well as an opportunity to talk about the transportation system. So Area 1 adjoins Richland Road and Northwest 23rd Street. Those are both minor arterials. As they stand now, they're both 2 lanes. You'll notice, you can just barely notice here that Frisco Road, adjacent to Area 2, is actually still inside the city of Yukon. You can see kind of the city limit line kind of has a little bend in it right there at that parcel. And that was done on purpose so that the full roadway and its right-of-way all is within one jurisdiction. There's a new interchange being constructed, and I don't know exactly what the timeline is, but it's in ODOT's 8-year plan, and so, in the next few years, we'll see an interchange there, I-40 and Frisco Road. Yukon has agreed to improve Frisco Road in the north portion, and Oklahoma City has agreed to do a similar improvement south of I-40 along Frisco Road as it becomes appropriate when the interchange is open and the area urbanizes further. So this is an opportunity to kind of capitalize on that, the new interchange.
I hate to interrupt you, but when you say that the city has agreed to do that, is there an actual mechanism for funding in place for that? I mean, do we know, is it on the new bond packet list?
That's a secret, so we can't talk about that. There's not current funding for improvements to Frisco Road.
What about, I noticed also says that as the area urbanizes, the streets would likely be widened to accommodate more vehicles and modes of travel, and there I think we're talking about the arterials. Is there an actual process in place to see that happen?
Yeah, they would be subject to our kind of capital improvement process at that point. There would be, so I'm not going to get into the whole debate about widening or not to widen and what that all entails, but yeah, so these arterials would be evaluated just like the ones that we've looked at now for the current or the new bond cycle.
Do we know, can you tell me whether these are even on, in the mix, on the list?
I'm actually not sure if they are.
Okay.
And it's possible that it would be premature to put them in the cycle now. We don't know what the term is going to be, for example, so that'd be an important consideration. So these roadways may be more appropriate for the next bond cycle, so whatever would be 2025, however that works out. Okay. So a few more other considerations that we look at when we consider a plan amendment. Of course, the Plan OKC policies talk about integrating of uses, clustering of commercial development, creating new nodes, supporting existing nodes, providing easy access to commercial uses, increasing and stabilizing revenues. Of course, that's a hot topic these days, as well as service efficiency. So I've talked a little bit about that, and our plan to temporarily provide or get or acquire water and wastewater service from Yukon. Fire response, of course, we're looking at working with UConn on that issue as well, and enhancing our agreements with them. We're concerned about the functionality and quality of the surrounding area. So this is a kind of an interesting opportunity. It doesn't come up very much, not very much opportunity in Oklahoma City to create new regional nodes like this. So we're looking forward to capitalizing on that. And starting off on the node with a master planned regional entertainment district is certainly a step in the right direction if that's what we want to, if that's the direction we're going to go. Okay, so staff recommendation in Area 1, remove the UR layer and leaving the urban low intensity designation in place. In Area 2, which is currently undesignated, apply the urban low intensity designation to the area. And that would look like approximately that. So you'd have additional urban reserve land around the new urban low intensity. We'd probably close up that gap along the highway there when we actually do the map change. But those show the two tracks that were proposed for the plan amendment. Happy to answer any questions.
I want to just make sure that I understand that basically the thing that's driving the idea of removing it from urban reserve and putting it into urban low intensity, there's sort of two pieces to that. One is the fact that services are available, albeit from UConn rather than from us. And the other one is this interchange opportunity, the fact that that gives us a somewhat unique opportunity to create this commercial district there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you reminded me of that because, UConn still owns that portion to the north there that's just outside of Oklahoma City, basically what they call Main Street and Frisco Road, and they're planning to do a sports complex. I know they had a little setback recently on that, but I imagine that's still their long-range plan is to have a regional sports destination there, and the opportunity for Oklahoma City to kind of participate in that whole regional component with the entertainment and commercial portion is certainly attractive to us as well.
Any other discussion, commissioners? Questions?
I ordinarily would not want to see the plan change so quickly, but this seems to be logical. And I move approval of this.
Do we need to do one or two? Are we doing one or two things? I mean, do we need more than one motion?
I think it's two steps. Am I correct? That's what I thought. Okay.
We're just approving the plan amendment, right?
We're removing the urban...
The designation.
Yeah. And then yes.
All right.
You can do it in two steps if you'd like for each area, or you can maybe roll it into one, but be specific about the change in both areas. Whichever's easiest.
So move approval of the motion, what is this thing called here? The resolution to remove the urban reserve LUDA from Area 1.
Second.
And
you want to do it second?
And designate it urban, or is that the second half? And designate it as urban low intensity. Can I do it all at once like that? Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 17 as read. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
And then I move to designate Area 2 as an urban low-intensity area.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second to move Area 2 to urban low intensity. Cast your votes, and that's approved. I think we've got it.
The last item on the agenda is the PUD. that is associated with the comp plan amendment. So item 18 is PUD 1637 to rezone 14137 Northwest 23rd from AA to PUD 1637.
And you,
Just out of curiosity, while we're waiting, what was the little setback that UConn experienced with respect to their plan to develop the?
it was a budget issue.
Oh,
Ouch. Ouch.
Ready?
She's leaving. We're going to get JJ up here.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Brian Kuhn with Hewitt-Zollars representing the applicant. You got a little bit of intro to what's going on out here for this property. I've passed around a list. I talked with Mr. Bright the other day. Believe it or not, we have some signage things we want to talk about, so I called him early just to talk about signs so we wouldn't have to have a 30-minute knockdown drag out here. So we'll talk about signs in a minute. One of the things he commented on, and we hear often in PUDs, is do you need all these uses? So instead of, you heard earlier, someone trying to list out so that you could write them down, on the list you have in bold are the additional uses that we removed. I was with the developer yesterday. We went through all of the C3 uses, talked about each one of them. Do you need this? Do you not? And we said no, no, no. So that's the list of things we're going to amend the PUD to remove additional uses. We haven't added any, just so you know. A couple other things that are different. Let me just show you the master plan first. Again, Frisco Road. I'll talk loud here. Hopefully you can hear it. New interchange here at Frisco and I-40. Plans are done. We're expecting that to start sometime late or 18 or 19. So it's probably a year and a half project here. Yukon, if you're familiar with the area, Vandermont Road comes out and comes to right here right now. It's going to be extended up to here. New water tower for Yukon goes in here. It's already under construction. Once they started seeing our plan, this thing has been a lot of cooperation has happened with Yukon, us, Public Works, City Manager's Office, Council, Triad Engineering, who is Yukon's engineer, as well as Olson, who is doing the park. So there's been a lot of meetings, a lot of talk about how do we coordinate this thing, make sure it goes together. Our last meeting with Yukon, we had our main entrance here for this northern piece. So they moved the road from the south side of the water tower, moved Vandermont up so it would line up with our entrance, so we'd only have one signal. So like I said, there's been a lot of cooperation. The park is up here. Again, this was the 60 acres or 57 acres that we just bought back from Yukon and re-annexed. But our property here, this piece is going to be primarily hotels, retail, restaurants, a water park. We've got our architect from our company, from our Orlando office, designing the water park. It'll be, I think, something that's fabulous for Oklahoma City to have in this part of the state. Road that goes in, it covered kind of a Main Street area on that. And for those in the future, you will see a site plan come before you when we do come back with that. We've asked in our PUD that anything residential, I'm glad it came up earlier, anything residential, you'll have a subdivision plat. So you will see the layouts of no matter what we do. Commercial uses here primarily. This track down here, we are looking at some commercial, but we just don't know yet because our plan right now, we own this triangle here, Yukon own this. So we're talking about how do we cross I-40. We're still talking about that, whether it's a pedestrian way or is it a vehicular way, but this could migrate over into here some. We've talked to home builders, possibly those are homes, possibly it's assisted living, independent living, those kind of things. There's a huge need for that out in this part of town. This gray area over here on the west side, there's a major power line here, 300-foot easement. On the west side of that, we're talking RV park. A lot of families come to this, bring their kids. A lot of them come in RVs. They need a place to park those RVs. We want a way for them to get to here easily. And it may be someone that lives in an RV all the time. There's another park back to the east of this that is completely full, and it's always full. So there's a need for the RV park. One of the things in my PUD, and you'll see, Richland Road, which is on the west side of this whole property, is a 2-lane graveled road. If you cross under I-40, it's about a 12-foot wide opening under I-40. So we have no access to Richland Road at all. There's some homes over here on the west side, And so I thought, you know what, it might just be, but let's just don't have any driveways over there at all. Because you wouldn't be able to turn north if we widen, you couldn't go north and go under I-40 anyway. So I think you may hear from staff, or I'll go ahead and say it. I think TE4 talks about a sidewalk on Richland. They're going to delete that TE just because we don't want any changes really on Richland Road, mainly for those neighbors' sake. And again, we've added an additional 20-foot buffer on Richland Road, so if platted or whatever we do there, you'll get the additional 17 feet plus another 20 before there's any RVs. Again, you've heard about the utility situation. We've been working with UConn. It's been interesting because this basin that serves Oklahoma City is about 24 square miles. Oklahoma City knows it's coming someday, so Oklahoma City Public Works and wastewater have been talking about UConn about maybe some kind of a joint treatment plant someday. UConn has a treatment plant, but it's back here about a mile and a half. So it's going to be kind of tough to get that to work. We are building we are funding the lift station up here, which will serve this and this. It'll be a UConn lift station. However, we're building it, and we've already worked with Nathan Maidenwald in wastewater about future easements. We'll set those up now because we know there's going to be some major sewer lines coming through to serve that entire basin. Again, Frisco Road, there's plans right now for that to be widened. We are trying to get control of this property here. We would love to have this, but our plan works without it. So, again, UConn Water, we have a letter from UConn that says that they will supply our services until such time as Oklahoma City can. Our improvement plans have to be built to City of Oklahoma City standards. So if it's 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, when those lines turn into Oklahoma City lines, and they'll be Oklahoma City lines to begin with, but they're being served by UConn, but they will meet Oklahoma City standards. A couple other things in our PUD that I had. I started off with 2 billboards, one on each side of I-40. And as I talked to Mr. Bright and as we started looking at different things, we are changing that a lot. Once I heard that he didn't like it, we said, how about no taller than 30 feet higher than the road? Okay, that didn't sound too bad, so we kept talking about that. And the billboard, 672 square feet, do we really need it? Now, what we've come back with now, this is the sign at Belle Isle Station, out at Classen and it's north, I don't know what they call it. It's I-44, sorry. I liked it, took it back to the office, took some pictures of it, and my son, who's here with us today, also said, no, we're not doing that. So, okay, that goes away. So I had the architect, who's with us also, draw up, okay, let's do something a little less. So this is the same height as the Belle Isle Station, 44 feet high, with all these signs, Chili's and Domino's, blah, blah, blah. And yesterday, the architect and the owner has said, no, don't need to do that. We want to do this. We want to say this is Thunder Falls. People will know there's a water park there. People will find the Chili's. They'll find what they need to. So we've come back with no signage, no new signage on the south side of I-40. One new tall sign, 38 feet tall on the north side, 38 feet high. This is actually a cylinder, and we need 200 square feet of signage, and that's all. So wherever you are, now this changes today because we did have EMD3. We were going to change today to EMD2 because I would like for this signage to scroll so you can read it. But Mr. Bright, and you all may feel differently, but he asked if we can go to EMD1, and we can if you want EMD1. What we were trying to do, this sign can only advertise what's on our property or on the UConn Park property. So it can only say Chili's, whatever. It has to be on for 8 seconds or more, or it may say, welcome this weekend, OSSA soccer tournament. So we want to help UConn bring people to their site. They're going to find it eventually, but this way, this sign will really only help people that are coming into Oklahoma City. As you can see, then they'll be half a mile before they get to interchange. Sign on the other side, it's people going out of town. We don't really need that. So we've changed the sign from 30 feet above roadway to be one tall sign, 38 feet high, not tall, excuse me, one sign, 38 feet high. That was the wrong word to use. I said affordable one time in one here, and that was the wrong word to use too. 38 feet top to the top. It'll have a flame, possibly. Flame on top, natural gas flame. This, like I said, is architectural metal. It's a circular, or it's a column, not necessarily a square sign, so that, you may read it from the side or the front, whatever. Most likely to be one side or the other as you're on I-40. So, but again, it'll be that. 200 square feet, not 672 square feet. Only on the north side. It's 15 feet wide. The PUD document that you have has two signs that are 60 feet wide, so we've greatly reduced that. Now, monument signs. This is the sign I wanted at our entrance over on Frisco Road. This is what the architect says we're going to go with. It's 8 foot tall. Monument signs are 8 foot tall max. It's not going to say Chili's, probably won't any of that. I guess it could, but it's not going to have a lot of room to do that. These are 8 foot max. All the monument signs are 8 foot max. The architect over here. Yeah. Well, he said, you want me to hold that? I said, no. He goes, because you want to take credit, don't you? I said, no. I'll give you credit for it. This park, I think, will be phenomenal. I do have to toot the horn a little bit. He does a lot of work at Disney, Universal, Legoland. You've seen pictures of that, maybe. Harry Potter new exhibit. This is him. It's going to be phenomenal for Oklahoma City. And he came up with this. So you're going to see him here more often. And he came up with this. Because he said, we don't need this. We don't need billboards. And I'm glad. And the owner said, I agree. Don't need that. So this is going to be a combination of, I'm sure in your travels you've been to main streets where you can walk, restaurants both sides, very little traffic. In the core of this project, we've already had several hotels that have shown interest. Again, this park, soccer, baseball, softball. We are talking about possibly an amphitheater for the kids that don't play soccer, softball, baseball, where maybe the Yukon Orchestra could come and play, or something else, Shakespeare in the park, whatever. So those are really the only changes I'm making today. I'm adding more uses that I've taken out, I've taken more uses out.
Right.
It's double negative, I think, or something.
Adding more uses you're taking out.
I'm taking more uses out, and I've greatly reduced my signs. Bigly, as Gorsuch said yesterday in his hearing. Bigly reduced.
Anybody signed up?
Nope.
I appreciate, Brian, the EMD one, because John and I traveled this road many times and going 75 miles an hour and try to read a revolving sign. It's not safe.
I'd want to drive around it to get the entire message, but...
And also, I see that the TE requires a specific plan when you come in and decide what you're going to do with these various elements. I understand also why you don't want to put a sidewalk along a dirt road.
Right.
Yeah, so, but on 23rd Street, Frisco, you'll do that.
We'll have sidewalk on Frisco, the part we own.
Yeah.
And then we will have but no sidewalks on
23rd.
No sidewalks on Richland.
Well, the other thing is that as we've talked about on developments, particularly a lot of the Chesapeake developments and others, the Classen Curve and the large signs that are there, I've never objected to architecturally interesting signs. And I think the idea that you've come up with is an interesting sign. There you are, right? And also that we're familiar going around the state, we see gas flares everywhere. They're flaring gas, and that's the top of this sign. I think that's kind of maybe clever. So I don't object to the height of that sign either. So those are my comments.
So I want to just be clear, we're going to adjust TE2 that the maximum sign height will be limited to 8 feet tall, with the exception of a single 38-foot EMD1 sign permitted on the north side of I-40.
Yes.
Other than that, non-accessory signs and EMD signs are prohibited.
Yeah, right. Now, I do want to clear up, because I think the staff report you read earlier that you asked him about, you thought it was on 59th, it may have been, but there's an existing billboard on the south side now, but there's a lease on it, we really can't do anything about that.
Oh,
We're not asking for more signage. The only new sign is to be the one on the north side.
And delete TE4.
Delete TE4.
And, no, we're not going to remove TE4, we're going to remove the reference to Richland Road
Yes.
in TE4.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, and so then with those changes, I would move approval.
Okay, we have a motion as...
Are we ready?
Yeah, can I get a little, maybe a little more outside the box a little bit? On 23rd Street, could we maybe have our sidewalk go from point A to B, but maybe be more than just along the, maybe we bring that in the site. It'll still be on 23rd, never mind.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get outside the box.
I don't
Just
have a
on a
problem with
sidewalk
that.
40 feet off the street, it's just a straight shot.
But I think you ought to leave it in there.
That's fine. We're fine, we're fine. It'll still be on 23rd, sorry.
So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 18 as conditioned. Cast your votes. And it is approved. Thank you.
I hope this is a wonderful success. It sounds like a really exciting project. And you, I hope we see a lot more of you. And you should let your son do the signs from now on. If you think the Belle Isle Station sign is pretty, you need to retire from signage. Okay.
Okay, item 19 is continued, so that concludes the items for separate consideration. Planning commissioners, any discussion today? Planning department? Okay. Development services, JJ? Municipal counselor? Citizens to be heard? We are adjourned at 2:59.